Let's pick what I think are going to be the best dividend stocks of 2025. Now, I don't know what they are yet, so let's do the research. As a recap, this is what we're looking for. I'm going to stick to stocks that are in the ASX 200. The top companies within Australia or any stock exchange are going to be the most stable, usually, not always. They're going to have more financial information about them. And because I'm a dividend investor and I like that cash flow, we're going to look for companies that have a high dividend yield. So in this video, we'll look at 5% or higher. But as important as dividend yield is, because we want a good return for our money, we also need to make sure that those dividends are consistent, that they're paying regularly. But preferably, we want them growing over time. So the longer that we hold, the more our income is going to increase over the long term. And lastly, we might look at a few other extra things just so we can narrow down the list to the best dividend stocks for 2025. So let's go. We'll jump on the computer and start our research.
To save time, I'm going to use the stock screener in CommSec. So first I'll change it to show dividend information, then start adding my criteria. So for me, that's in the ASX 200, and then only showing those companies that have a 5% dividend yield. So that gives us 45 companies to work with. However, I'm feeling a little lazy and I want to narrow down this list even more. So let's use the dividend growth rates as well. So dividend growth rates are just a quick way to measure if the dividend payout is growing over time. And since I like dividends that increase the longer that you hold them, I'm going to factor this in to only include dividends that are growing. And I'll use the time frame of 5 years as my base. So now we have 23 companies to work with, which is a much more manageable list. So next, I'm going to put this list into a spreadsheet so that we can find the best of these. What I'll do now, I'll go through and check to see if visually I think the company looks like it has a strong dividend stability, and also check to see if the stock price has increased over the past 5 years. That should be enough to narrow down the list even further. We'll see, depending on how many I like. And as I usually do, I'll get the 5-year price increase from Google and the dividend information from CommSec. And then I'll just highlight the companies that I like in yellow and come back to them in a minute. I filled in the rest of the spreadsheet and I like a lot of them actually. So let's just choose the ones that I think have both a really good high dividend yield and strong dividend growth. So the first company, Yancoal, while it does have the highest dividend yield, it just doesn't look that consistent to me. It just looks like the dividends are decreasing. So it might be fine for someone looking for some quick income, but it's not growing. So I've discounted that company. The next, Fortescue, has a high dividend, excellent growth, and a great price return. So I'm going to highlight that one with a brighter yellow because I like it. And then I'm just going to go down the list until I get the best 5, in my opinion. So here we are. These are the 5 that I like the most. So let's recap these 5 in a little bit more detail so you can see why I like them. The 5 I like are Fortescue Metals, Helia Group, Chorus, Eagers Automotive, and Santos. Fortescue Metals, because it's increased over 77% in the last 5 years. It has a high dividend yield of 8.2% and has a strong dividend growth for both 1, 5, and 10 years. It's 100% franked, pays twice a year in March and September, and the March dividend hasn't been announced yet, so you could get in before the ex-dividend date and get paid the dividend next month if you wanted. Helia Group has increased really nicely since 2020. It's been up 28% over 5 years. Its dividends have been strong in the last 3 years with a good dividend growth over the long term. It's 100% franked, pays twice a year, and again, the ex-dividend date for March hasn't been announced yet. Chorus has been a little bit more volatile, but up 27% over 5 years, but it has the most consistent and growing dividends from this list, and a really good dividend yield of 6.2% and growing. It doesn't have franking, however, 0%, and it pays in April and October. Eagers Automotive is up 52% over 5 years, although it's been pretty stagnant since about 2021. But it does have nice, stable, growing dividends with a yield of 5.4%. It's 100% franked and it pays in March and September. And again, the March dividend hasn't been announced yet, which is for all of these really. We are in reporting season, but March is the largest dividend for Eagers. And lastly, Santos, it's decreased by 14%, although that's mostly due to when I looked at this chart. So if I was to look again, say next month, it would show an increase. But even so, it's been fairly stagnant since about 2021. Dividends, however, are good, 5.9% yield and good growth over the long term. It doesn't have franking and again pays in March and September.
So those are my picks for the best dividend stocks for 2025. What do you think? Are they your favorite too, or do you have better ones? Let me know in the comments. Anyway, take care, angels, and I'll see you in the next video. Mwah.